We are we were originally in the professional services space. My business partner and I had our own Salesforce consulting companies that we both built up and sold before we came together to create Blackthorn. And in that time, we used just about every PSA app we could find and really weren't happy with a lot of them. We currently use an app that has a nice time tracking component, and we really wanted to have that same experience because one of the biggest problems that we found, even in our past services companies where we were employees, and then when we had our own companies, people don't want to log time. They forget, they don't feel like dealing with it, and that means that you lose revenue if you're billing by time. So we wanted to have a way that was way easier to do this. And then as an owner or someone in billing, it is extremely annoying to have to recreate invoices when all the data is already there. If it would be nice if you could just click a button and then just generate your invoices. So these are the big drivers that we wanted to have to be able to have a professional services automation app. So the basic concept of our PSA app is that you can manage everything within Salesforce. There's a few PSA apps that are on the platform that can do this, so none of this is too new. You have your project details, you have your milestones, your tasks, you set your different assignments, your resources, you have your time entries and your timesheets. You'll find these in just about any PSA app. The biggest difference is about ours is that we have a time entry lightning component, which makes it really easy to be able to log time. And PSA is also a layer on top of Blackthorn CPQ. So the big thing with projects is that you have to bill for them. So why have that in two different applications? So with all the time you have, we can generate invoices either based upon time or milestones or a fixed schedule. That's up to you to be able to configure. So the time entry lightning component and what this does, this, like any lightning component, you can render this wherever lightning components can be rendered. So this means, of course, within Salesforce, but also within Salesforce One, which I'm going to be demoing today off my phone, as well as from native PC and Mac inside of a wrapper, as well as iOS and native apps and Android native apps. So there's a lot of ways that you can access this, and that means that the records that it's generating are all living within Salesforce. So there's no external data source here. We have some filtering, so you can only see projects that you're assigned. You can start and stop the timer. You can add descriptions. You have task and subtask, etc. So I'm going to be showing you how this works today. And just so you understand how this works with CPQ, so you first install Blackthorn Payments. You then install CPQ. This allows you to then generate invoices. The invoices can be sent with our Blackthorn Documents app. So this allows you to automatically host all the time entries in Salesforce from PSA, render them on invoices through CPQ, send them out through our Documents app. This is all part of the same stack. And then people can pay by card or ACH, or you can just auto charge it and send them a receipt. And again, if anybody doesn't know about payments, we work with Stripe, and I think everybody actually on this call is familiar with payments. So we will breeze right through this. So within our PSA data model, you have all of your basic fields here on the left where you can set your billing information. You can have it as the common types of projects that you can have: time materials, fixed fee, or it's a not billable type of project. And this affects how all of the billing works. You can have your billing method by the project rate, assignment, or the task. You can have your billing cycle be different too. So you can have that be by a milestone. Periodic would be like, biweekly. And custom schedule would be like, okay, we're going to do November 15th and, January 1. You can set your billing frequency. The way this works is that in our CPQ app, we have a scheduled process that can evaluate all of your billing records to then auto-generate your invoices. So it sets this frequency. And then you have your payment term that you're issuing to your customers. Then you set, if you have a project level rate, if you have an assignment rate, if you have a task rate, you can set those. And then by the project, you then have some type of budget. So that can be by the project, by the assignment, the task. Like maybe you do like most of your line items are time materials, but one of them is fixed fee. So you can specify those if it's by like the task or the assignment. So with the health of the project, you have your basic status. The health indicator can be configured to specify health of a few things. Generally, the health has to do with, are you over hours or are you over your budget or are you really close? So that's, generally your health. And then that can also span into your date ranges. Are you beyond when you set your end date would be? You can set your dates, and with everything that we have in the application, we have like the estimated and the actual, because with projects it's very important to get your results that the next time you do it, you can have better estimating. So everywhere we have dates, hours, and costs and revenue around estimated and actuals. And we also get the delta from a lot of those so you can get real-time metrics about these. This is at the project level, milestone, the task, and task looks up to itself, so you can have task, subtask, 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 and it can go all the way down. So here within the time, you can specify, what your time looks like, what your revenue looks like for your estimates, your actual, and anything that's remaining. It automatically rolls up your billable and non-billable hours. You have your costs. Again, these concepts are in a lot of PSA applications, but the biggest differences here are how the application then handles this downstream with the Lightning component and with billing. So the billing component is a really nice aspect because it's automatically integrated. It sets the amount that you've invoiced, the last invoice date, the next date, the balance due, etc. And then you have some basic toggles for closing for time entry, closing for expenses, and you can also set this as a project template. So instead of having to, if you do like quick starts all the time, instead of having to recreate the same template all the time, you can just, instead of having to recreate the project, you can then have a template. So if we look at the related list, before we dive into the Lightning component, you have your assignments. So if we go ahead and look at assignment, you'll see the same fields on a lot of the objects because a lot of them can be tracked in different types of ways per project, per company, whatever your organization structure is. So you set the assignment. This is basically a junction between the contact and the project to say who's really working on the project. And you say if they have different cost rates. So if they have like, what you're billing them at, what their cost is, and so you can get your margins calculated. And then this also has everything that the contact is related to. If they're set on certain tasks, if they have logged time, if they have any specific assignments, that's a different junction that I'll show you here shortly. And if we go back to the project and we click into either the milestone or the task, this is, again, what you're generally used to seeing. For the milestone is sometimes correlated to a billing aspect, sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. You can have hours, you can set your rate if it's billing off the milestone. You can have tasks related to the milestone if you have multiple tasks that need to be completed before you say a milestone is complete. And you have all of your time entries that roll up to the milestone, your revenue, and all of your invoicing that can roll up to the milestone as well. And if we look at some of our related details, we have a task here of data modeling related to that milestone. So with data modeling as a task, similar to a milestone, it's an easier way to be able to view these as multiple tasks related to a milestone. You then see all of your details about the individual task. Did you bill on it on a certain fee? Was there an hourly rate that you're doing for this task that's different from the rest of the project rate? Is it billable? And then you have your status of this individual task, your dates when you anticipate this task being done, your time, your revenue, and your invoicing. All of the dates here, the way that it works with Salesforce's Lightning, you can turn this into a calendar. So in a calendar view, you can view all of your tasks within Salesforce Lightning to make a custom calendar. And we're coming up with a few ways to actually manage this in a little more graphical way with some embedded reports in Lightning to see this in also another graphical way. So now let's go back into the part that I think is really fun, is the time tracker. So with the time, this is a Lightning component. I have it in the sidebar here. Same exact component can work on your phone and coming soon inside of some separate apps that you can download that it will render inside of. So it will show question asked, Salesforce's calendar is the answer. What kind of calendar we have? Is it Salesforce's calendar? So the question, the time entry here is that per date, you can see all the time that's been logged. And this registers who the person is that's logging it, what the project is it's assigned to, what the task, and if there's a subtask. So I can restart this existing timer, which then adds time onto the existing time entry if it's not closed for time, which just generally means you've already submitted it for billing or you've closed off that week. I can stop the time entry, and then I can make a new time entry. So you can search for any projects. You can list projects by account. And if I go into the individual task, I can then pick the task that's related to the project. So maybe I want to bill this to the research task, and I'll say, here's a sample on the webinar. You can just leave this blank if you want to set the timer, or you can put in a duration if you just want to quickly log time, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and this then adds time onto my computer. Now let's say I went to a meeting and I wanted to be able to then pull this up on my phone, because I then went remote with the meeting, and looks like my screen mirroring has turned off, and now we are back on. And I'm going to switch the screen that I'm viewing here so you can see my phone. And I have named my phone Wowzers. I don't know why, but that's my phone. So here you can see our Lightning component. And this actually just needs to be refreshed real fast. And there you go. You can see the timer has begun on the component because it's rendering the same data set from the same data source. So if I wanted to stop this time entry and then have a new time entry, and I'm just tapping with my thumbs here, I can then start a new time entry. So here's a new time entry that I've now added, and I'm going to switch back into Salesforce and show you my computer here. And now if I go into my time entries, you'll then see all of the time here. So let's go ahead and look at all of them. And let's go ahead and look at this. I think this 10 one would be the one that has the example. So here's the sample time entry that I made for the webinar. And it automatically tracks the time. You can see when it was started, when it was stopped, and all of the rollups. This is actually an earlier version, and our newer version of PSA, these are all automatically rolling up. And that's the basis of time entry. Now, when you talk about billing, when you go ahead and do all of your billing, the billing all shows up on the project. So if we go ahead and look at one of the invoices, here's an invoice for the project. You can say that we've sent it to the customer. It's a biweekly invoice that's been named here for the project. It has a payment term, a due date, the financials. It has the address information, and it has an automatically rendered link, which you can send out to your customer. And before I show you the link, we also have our line items. So this automatically generated a line item with the billing rate and the quantity for the individual billing. So it logged 212 hours at the price, and then it has the amount. So if we go back to the invoice and we click on the link, this is our Blackthorn Documents application. This is the link that you can send out to your customer to be able to pay for the invoice. With everything that we do, fully mobile responsive, so you can see your line items, you can scroll, you have all the basic information about your invoice. You can click and download it as a PDF, or you can click to pay by card, or you can pay by ACH. And this then authorizes the payment, does the checkout on the invoice. So to show some basic information about our timeline and cost. So it'll be available for use, go live testing in January. If anybody wants to move forward before then, it will be available for purchase at a discounted rate by November 30th. And then the price will be $39 per user per month. And then CPQ is the underlying layer that manages all of the billing. And then payments helps to manage all of the multi-currency aspects. Question, does the users need to have their own Salesforce license to be able to enter and track their time? This is a magical question that we get answered. Currently, yes. Eventually, no. So if all they need access to is the Lightning component, using a feature called Lightning Out, we have a way to actually identify that person. If you saw our previous webinar about our portal, We have similar authentication to authenticate that person on our platform, surface the component using Lightning Out, and they can use it just as the Lightning component in order to track time. That would mean they have zero access to log into Salesforce to see any of the data and manage the project aspects there. They would be able to start and stop their own timer, though, without the license to Salesforce. Hope that answers that question. Any other questions that we have on the call? I'm going to put my email address inside of the message here in case anybody has any additional questions. Otherwise, thanks for joining the webinar. And this has been an early preview into PSA.